Am I on now? Okay, good evening. Board of Adjustment regular meeting will now come to order. Today is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. It is 6:03 p.m. City Council Chambers, 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas, 76060. We are here tonight to address the board regarding an agenda item. And if you are here, submit a request to speak form before the meeting begins. Speakers will be allotted 3 minutes and must limit their comments to the subject indicated on the form and should address the board as a whole rather than individual members or staff. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, the board reserves the right to adjourn into executive closed session at any time during the meeting to seek legal advice from the city attorney on any item posted on the agenda. Can I get a roll call, please?
Azam Shar, Jessica Buchanan,
Present.
Kelly Rod, Pat Vader. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. So at this time, we should go ahead and swear in anyone who is planning to speak tonight. If you're planning to speak, if you would please go ahead and stand so we can swear you in.
Any testimony that you provide to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So you affirm or swear to that.
Okay, great. So looking at our regular session agenda, if we are on item B, items for individual consideration. Number 1, approval of the minutes from the July 12th, 2022 regular meeting. Give everyone a chance to look that over if you haven't already. We have a motion from Pat Vader to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? We have a second from Kelly Rod. All in favor of approving the minutes as written, please raise your right hand. I think we have a unanimous there. Moving on to item B2, consider approval of the special exception request on BOA-BBA 23-01. And I think we have staff here to give a presentation. If you can tell us about this, please.
Good evening, members of our Board of Adjustment. And before we begin, I want to start by thanking you for being here tonight, this Valentine's night. I know it's not the most romantic of places, but I want to thank you for your service to the community and your dedication to ensuring that important city business gets done tonight included. So we do before you presented board members a staff report to receive comments and consider action on a request for a special exception use by Hussein Kazam, our applicant for the use of a vehicle repair minor by section 6.2 of the Unified Development Code at 6317 Wildcat Way. The NCS subdivision block 1 lot 1A Kennedale, Texas, here in Tarrant County. I do want to address that the address itself, 6317 Wildcat Way, also known as Tree Point. Every map that we have as the city staff, our GIS that we link to on our city's website, and the Tarrant Appraisal District list this particular parcel as 6317 Wildcat Way. Because of that discrepancy with it being also known as Tree Point and there being a city sign out there that says Tree Point, I discussed this particular issue with the city attorney when it comes to our notice of public hearing on that. And according to our city attorney, we've met that standard of notifying residents of tonight's public hearing, but also pointing to every legal document that we could find for this particular parcel. The applicant himself, when he purchased the property, was purchased under 6317 Wildcat Way. But I did want to just kind of mention that before we begin. Tonight, we do have the applicant that can speak if you've got questions specific to his proposed use. But I just want to walk you through the staff report. So the current zoning at that location is C1. It is part of a what the future land use plan calls a neighborhood or urban village up in that part of town. And just very briefly, our staff recommendation is to recommend approval. I want to give you kind of some background as to why we're here tonight. So at that existing location, you have a car wash that has been there for some time, and it was recently purchased by the applicant. Before he purchased that property last year, he met with city staff to ask if he could do what he wanted to do there, and that was to convert the existing car wash into a minor auto repair facility, a quick service facility, and he was told that he could. He then decided to move forward with the purchase of that property, and then he submitted a building permit to remodel that interior office and restroom, in addition to adding a garage bay doors, further indicating his intent to convert that particular building for his new proposed use. That application for the building permit was sent to our third-party inspection company that the city contracts with. They simply review for code compliance on the building code. They don't review for zoning or use. That's deferred to city staff. So they did approve the building permit. He was then issued a building permit by city staff. Now, I'm your new development director that's come aboard in December. When this came across my desk, I like many other projects, I do just a review of where we're at, making sure that the use is copacetic, that is permitted by right. And that's where I learned that his proposed use wasn't permitted by right in the zoning district. So he had been given some incorrect information by staff prior to me getting here. In order for him to obtain a certificate of occupancy, once he's done with his construction on the site, he needs to obtain or request a special exception. I can't grant that to him. So it has to come before this board. So that's kind of the history as to why we're here tonight. The surrounding properties and neighborhoods in that part of town. To the north, I'm sure you're familiar, we have Walmart, the parking lot, we have a bunch of strip centers in that area. They offer takeout food options. There's a pair of gas stations that are anchored on the corners. We do have a multifamily complex just south of this location. As I mentioned earlier, our future land use plan envisions, it's sort of my guiding document and your guiding document. That envisions that part of town to be an urban village. Our adopted comprehensive plan that the city has identifies urban villages as sort of gateways into Kennedale, and they have them placed in different parts of town. Part of these gateways, they discuss, or the plan discuss, compatible development within those regions. Apartments are included in that, multi-tenant offices, retail restaurants, as well as service establishments. So the applicant, his proposed use would be a service establishment. What is there right now is a service establishment. It's a self-service establishment. So it is consistent with both our future land use plan and our comprehensive plan. As the board, you've got a couple standards that the applicants have to meet. And so walking you through the staff report, before I get into those particular standards, I'd like to ask the board if you would want to hear from the applicant. He did swear in, kind of make his case, and you can hear from him, and then we can come back and go over those standards to see whether or not they've met those exceptions or those standards. I'll take your direction on that. I can continue with the staff report, or
Okay, so I know we have at least one member who would like to ask some questions. And
certainly.
anybody else? Okay, so yes, I think we would want to.
Okay, Mr. Cazell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Hussein Kazim, and I'm the new owner of the property 6317 Wildcat Way. I'll make it short. Before I bought the property from the broker, I liked the location and was told them in one condition, I will purchase that property if the city of Kennedale allow me to do minor auto repair. That's what I would like to do. She said, sure enough. We went down here to the city hall, speak with James, who was the planning departments at that time. He said, yes, can be done. He gave me some items, drawing the house kind of look, the buildings, the doors and stuff like that. I took notes. I went down to the drawing, to my architects with the survey. I done exactly what he said. Sure enough, I brought it back to him. He looked at it, he said, no, he has some objections about the dimensions. I took a note, went back and I fixed it. When I came back with the new drawing, he was too busy, he said, to leave it with Betty up the front, and he will look at it and he will let me know. I waited 4 or 5 days, maybe 3, 4 days. I couldn't get him over the phone. So I went down here to check on the application, what happened, if he has any more objections or anything. And I found out he's no longer working with the city. And she was Andrea, Miss Andrea here said, well, he's no longer with the city. I'm taking his position temporary. And I explained it to her, and she said, okay, give me the application. We'll review it. I give her all the paperwork. She looked at it, okay, said, it's fine, you got everything you need, but I'm gonna submit that application to a third party to review it, which is called Safe Belt. Sure enough, we waited about almost 2 months. And I received the email from Safe Belt with the drawing being stamped by them, and the city, they just give me a permit number 412. Then I closed on the property. I purchased it, based it on what we agreed on, me and the seller. Sure enough, we start working on it. I'm like halfway done according to the plan, what I submit. And come down here, I found Mr. Gonzalez, because the first time I met him, because he wasn't new, he said, found out I have a special use permit. Told him, well, I never told them. I didn't have no idea. He said, okay. Then I start submit the papers to Mr. Gonzalez the way he wants it, with the city code and all this and that, to be up to that point to submit the new special use permits. And I did. And he was satisfied. Well, actually, he put a stop on order on my work. Said, I need to stop working until you submit this stuff for me. Sure enough, I submitted it to him and hooked at it, said, okay, I'm gonna lift off the stop order so you can continue. Then we're still going, we're almost done according to the plan, to the city code, whatever Mr. Gonzalez requested. That's what happened exactly. And I bought that property alone from the bank. I just want to get to your attention, because I don't have any use for any car washes. When I'm looking at the building, I'm making it not, if you look, I'm spending some money on it. It's gonna look nice, looking up to the city code, whatever you are requested. And I need your cooperation on that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cosmo. I think we have some questions for you, sir.
It's okay, no problems. No, it's gonna be a full staff.
You're taking down the wall.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What are the canopies?
The canopy used to be people that go and clean their cars. Yes. Yes, when people come for oil service or for breaks, stuff like that, we go back there and clean their cars as for free, just to make them happy.
Okay. Everything all.
Yes, sir. Yes, our mechanics gonna be minor auto repair, hopefully with no car. No, just oil change, brakes, inspection, alignment was done like manners, hour to hours. Yes, those above the ground, yeah, we have to have those. I submit this application and Mr. Gonzalez approved it. It was not the heavy, just not underground, above the ground. No, no pits. Yes, sir. No, I'm gonna be working in it. Yeah, it will be there. At the beginning, yes, sir, I will.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Cosmo, I have one question. Can you give me some idea of when all of this started? When you first contacted the city, just approximately?
That was last year. Maybe in October.
Okay,
Under-
thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you, board
Gonzalez, I
members.
think you were going to talk about the standards.
Correct. I do want to provide some context on the stop work notice on that. And that was to, and I put this in the staff report, City of Arlington is our water purveyor. And so they have certain requirements that have to be met as far as protecting that water. And so he had, as a car wash, you have existing interceptors, these grates that are underneath each bay collect the runoff that goes into an interceptor before it goes into the sewer. That sand interceptor was the incorrect type of interceptor for his proposed use. So one of that is that at his cost, he's swapping that out for an oil separator, the proper interceptor to protect that water per Arlington's requirements, per our requirements. So that's another, once he submitted his manufacturer specification for his lifts, engineer reports for the welding of the garage bay doors, those are items that I required that had to be submitted before he could move forward. And he's done everything that we've asked to do even before. It sounds like before I got here, he's been a willing participant in that. But to speak to standard number one, or the Board of Adjustment to consider, the board must find that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the use will not be materially detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. So staff, we don't believe that this use will be materially detrimental to endanger public health, safety, morals, or the general welfare. In its previous condition, I'll say, as a self-service car wash, this location received numerous calls for service from the police department to address complaints and disturbances among a variety of other things. So we do believe that this new use, would be greater improved for that location. Standard number two, where the board must find that the use, values, and enjoyment of other property in the neighborhoods for the purposes are already permitted shall not be in no foreseeable manner substantially impaired or diminished. This use is compatible with the uses in the area. It is consistent with our adopted comprehensive plan, future land use plan, which call out service establishments as part of the desired uses. This new business will establish set business hours, right? So the self-service probably had something posted. Was that adhered to? Probably not. Doesn't appear so. But this new business will establish set business hours, and that's going to limit the access at that particular location, so that it will improve site conditions when you compare it to its previous use. The building itself will also, as you've heard tonight, receive a variety of updates to its office, restroom, service bays, underground plumbing, and exterior facade. So there's a portion of the exterior that's damaged that's going to be repaired as well. Standard number 3, we also find that standard has been met. Staff believes this is a positive example of redevelopment here in Kennedale, and it enhances service offerings in this region of the community. On that part of town, we don't really have a service like this. We have something similar in the adjacent, in the town over next door, but they don't offer exactly what he's offering. So I think this would be a positive example of redevelopment. Standard number 4, the board must find that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary site improvements have been provided. The property is served by all necessary site improvements. Additionally, as I stated, the applicant is replacing the interceptor. So that's going to improve utility usage and water treatment at this location. Standard number 5, the board must find that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed to minimize traffic congestions. We don't foresee any traffic congestions or any issues with that as a result of this proposed use. The demand that was there before, you still have vehicles going in, you're still going to have that same, but we don't see an increase in causing traffic congestion there. So we do, staff is recommending approval of this with the following exceptions. And of course, the board can place what their expectations are as it seems fit, but staff is recommending, as we discussed, all automotive work be done within the service bay, that all outdoor storage must comply with section 11.25 of the Unified Development Code. So our zoning ordinance has specific standards on how outdoor storage has to be kept, screened, or if it's even allowed, right? And then also parking lot, once all the construction and the parking lots fixed from the underground work, that the striping and the spaces comply with the Unified Development Code as well. And so with the staff report, we have provided some examples of decisions. Of course, the board is free to make its decision as well, but staff does recommend approval for the special exception use. Happy to answer any of the questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. So at this time, we'll just go around, and if anyone has anything that you'd like to ask as far as a technical question or clarification from Mr. Gonzalez, you can do so. Ms. Buchanan? Okay. Ms. Rod? Mr. Vader?
I believe so. I believe the board can grant those special exceptions for a period of time. As with any zoning use, whatnot, if the use changes in the future, so it's not transferable. So this would just be for this particular use. So if the use changes, it would have to come before the appropriate body to consider that.
Mr. Gonzalez, I have one question. Could you tell me, please, when we're talking about minor vehicle repair, I know Mr. Kazem was talking on that, but specifically what is allowed and what is not allowed according to the city code?
That's a great question, actually. The last section of our zoning ordinance has a section for land use definitions, and it has some significant differences between vehicle repair minor and vehicle repair major. So vehicle repair minor would be those designed for quick services. So everything that the applicant has described, oil changes, tire replacements, brakes, alignments, those types of things, to where a vehicle can get in and then get out. It's not going to be stayed overnight or anything like that. They're not dropping engines. You wouldn't be able to do transmission overhauls, collision repair, those types of things. Those would be fall underneath vehicle repair major. So just the quick services, as he described, is what the definition is for vehicle repair minor.
And you ended up answering another question of mine, which was so that for Mr. Cosm's business, that would not necessitate vehicles being left on site for days on end where there would be, because we, as you mentioned earlier, we have had issues at that location in the past. And if vehicles were being left on site for long periods of time, that could invite other problems.
Great point. Our development code has two sections to where that can be addressed. One, the outdoor storage provision of our ordinance that defines, it also includes junked vehicles, things of that nature. So if outdoor storage is prohibited, or if it's going to be, it's got to be placed in a certain place, screened from view inside the bay. You couldn't have that. But the other thing is our zoning does talk about how long a vehicle can stay on a private lot. And so that would be a code enforcement issue. I so happen to also be your only code enforcement officer here in town. So that's something I certainly have on my radar, but we do have mechanisms in our zoning to address that as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else? So at this time, do we want to entertain a motion? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. So I guess we should take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. I see an anonymous. So it looks like we have approved this with the aforementioned exceptions and conditions. Well, that was easy. Okay, we do not have an executive session to convene to, so at this point, I would take a motion to adjourn. Kelly has made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second to that? We have a second from Jessica. All in favor? So we are adjourning this meeting at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Cosm, for coming to us tonight.